If you can stop talking for 10 seconds, that would be fantastic. You want to hit the start timer on there? You want to hit? You want to start podcasting, genius?
Hello, welcome to Carnival Personnel Sideshow. It's just Jock today. I was hoping Wayne Russell would jump on board because he's a fan of our guest. But, well, you know, Elon Musk doesn't pay taxes. Jeff Bezos doesn't pay taxes. But here's Wayne Russell home doing his taxes because he's an idiot. So it's just me. But Wayne and I met our guest a little while back after we did the Wicked Funny competition at the long forgotten, like, you know, China Blossom is probably not coming back. After the show, our hero, actually, I think it was a show just with our hero, Tony V.
Yes.
Tony was talking to this lady that we didn't know, and Tony was talking to her like
old lady. You didn't say old lady.
who was just. Tony had such reverence for this person that we didn't know, and we're like, is this a person who, you know, that he grew up with, or what? And turns out it's a comic that all the comics that we've come to know and love over the few years that we've been in there look up, because she went off to Vegas years ago. She's a college professor. She's a beloved comic, and now for some reason she's a guest on my podcast. So, big Carnival Personal welcome for Joni Grassey.
Oh my God! I'm like, that was the nicest. Can we just record that and I'll just play it? Where I'm walking into the classroom, I'll just play that so the kids pay attention a little bit more.
I'll clip it so it can be your ringtone.
There you go. That would be great. But I remember that night because there was a competition going on.
That's what it was, the competition.
I was sitting at the table next to Wayne's dad, and we got chatting, and he said, "Oh, my son's in the competition," and I thought, "Oh God, I hope the kid is funny because I have to sit next to his dad now."
Yep.
He sucks.
Yep, top three. Wayne fucking killed it.
Great. He crushed it. Yeah, and I love working with Wayne. Anytime we work together.
He's a good dude.
Emily was there that night.
Yep.
And I think I'd actually gone because I was working part-time at a little restaurant in Wayland, and they were like, "Oh, we should do comedy shows here." It is totally not set up for comedy. We did it anyway. And I had hired Emily to do an all-girl comedy show. And I knew she was funny. I'd heard about her. And so I hired her. And then I thought, I should probably go watch her before we actually do the show.
So good.
And she's so good. Yeah.
She is my wife's favorite.
If I was not straight, I would marry her. I would seriously. I mean, I have such a crush on Emily.
My wife and I, the first 6-7 months, I did a show with her, and she did a routine. Her set was just 100% written for my wife. And my wife's like, I love her. So my wife will go to 3 or 4 of my shows a year. Fate stepped in a couple weeks ago. I did 3 shows with Emily in 8 days. My wife went to all of them. My wife went to all of them. And the first show was a 55-minute show. The second show was a Galentine's Day show, and it was her, Amy T, and the Queen, Christine. And she only did 25 minutes, but she did 10 minutes that she didn't do in the 55 she did the Friday before.
Right? Yeah, she's brilliant.
And then the next day, she headlined. She did 45 minutes, and there was about 15 minutes. So within the 3 shows,
about the zip lining on vacation. Oh my God. Oh my God. She did that at the show we did at
it hurts so good.
And I thought people were just, I was afraid we were going to have to mop up the floors afterwards because people were peeing. I mean, and the thing is, I think we were doing a show every month. So we did close to 12 shows, I think. And people would contact me at the restaurant and say all the shows are great, but that all-girl show is the best thing we've ever seen. And I just thought, isn't that funny? Because, and this is one of my pet peeves, is the only time you ever see an all-female show is on Mother's Day, or sometimes Galentine's Day. But Mother's Day, every female comic works.
I got a call to host the Galentine's Day thing last minute.
That's great.
And I said, what are you talking about? It's like, you got 3 headliners.
Yeah.
The room's going to be 85% women.
Yeah, but they love you.
You don't need me coming up there saying, this is why my wife's mean to me. So I did no time.
Actually, that works. Like, my wife is here because, she won't come to see me, but she'll come to see them.
I just introduced them. But Emma,
so much fun.
She's somebody who her day job is helping people. Just a good person.
She's just one of those good people. Yeah. But we seem to have a lot of that, which is nice. Or maybe we just don't allow the not so nice people around us. I try to live by that also.
We're not talking about them. We're talking about you. So let's get right into it.
Oh, I'd rather talk about other people.
You're from the Boston area?
Yeah, I grew up in Natick.
You're a comedian?
Yeah, I think sometimes I've got a few paycheck stubs that say I am.
So I guess the first question is, what's your favorite racial slur? Or who's the most famous person you've seen naked?
Oh.
Either one. Ooh. Either one.
I'm not very good with racial slurs.
So you're Boston adjacent then.
Yeah. So well, I try not to work too dirty. I mean, I've been known to drop F-bombs, and sometimes in the classroom, which I have to warn the students about.
That's awesome.
The most famous person I've ever seen naked. Ooh, that's interesting. Did it be comedy?
No.
Oh, okay. I can't say because the book isn't written yet.
Okay.
I've seen a few. Jacques, in my prime, I was a hot little minx. Oh. And I've had my share of offers on things. So
well, the stories that you've regaled us with in the past, you're
but I can't name names.
Sure you can. Sure.
Oh no, I cannot. But I have been, somebody was, and they were like not in the business. There was this guy that was interested in me because I've been a widow for almost 22 years now. So every once in a while, some guy will ask me out, which is just horrifying to me. Because I'm a lot of work. I am. I know I'm very difficult. I know I am. I'm very settled. I've always been. It's my way or get out of the way. But I had a guy who was not in the business who, for some reason, when we were out, decided to serenade me. Oh. And first of all, it's really hard to keep a straight face when somebody's singing to you. And I finally had to say, sweetheart, I've been in the business since I was like 14 years old, and I have had major, I'm not naming names, major people in the business serenade me at concerts where there are thousands of people. Because I was hot at one time.
Oh, stop saying was.
So for you, I said, so for you to start singing to me, it's really, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. But thanks for trying. A for effort, and let's order dessert now so I can get the hell out of here.
I have the vision of John Belushi taking the guitar in Animal House when the guy serenading the girls and just smashing it.
Really hard to keep a straight face when somebody does that. And sometimes there have been occasions, I can tell you one person that did do this because it was a joke when I was on the road, and only the old people will know who I'm talking about. But I was friendly with the Wayne Newton group. So Wayne was like the Midnight Idol in Las Vegas. He was the biggest thing in Las Vegas for a very, very long time. The Midnight Idol, and now like the Midnight Idol does shows at 6 p.m. Got to go to bed. So we were on the road, and sometimes I would just go on the road with them because we were all friends. And my husband was like so cool about it. He was like really great. He would just go, yeah, go ahead, have fun. Go away. So we were in New Orleans, and for some reason, they said, we saved you a seat out front. And I thought, do I have to? Because I'd rather be backstage because there's food, that's like, where's the craft table? So they put me like front row center, right? And I didn't know the band had hatched this plan. So we we come out, and on either side of me are like 10 of the most gorgeous women that have ever been put on this earth. It was like Miss Louisiana and her court. And so Wayne's doing a show, and he says something like, and this next song is for a very special lady, and he's really hyping it. And I'm looking to think, okay, who's he trying to get back to his hotel room? There's going to be this gorgeous girl's going to get serenaded and get waned, as we used to say. You got waned, because he's very charming. But for me, he was just like, oh, she's that goofy little comic. It was like a whole different dynamic with me. Go figure. And so he's talking, and I'm doing this and looking, and finally he's in front of me, leaning over, and he goes, Joni, it's you. And I went, no. And I see the band. I'm thinking they won't even be able to play. They're cracking up. And I said, please don't. And then he did. And I had to sit there, adoringly, as he sang to me. And the whole time I'm shooting looks at the band going, you're all dead when this show is over. You better hope he goes 3 hours because I'm going to kill you. It was so embarrassing. It's so, because, and if you've ever, and because you're a musician, if somebody's dating a musician and they dedicate a song and they sing, the girlfriend has to sit there and look like, oh, isn't this the most romantic thing? It isn't.
No,
it really isn't. I'm sorry. It's just awful.
It's
awful. I think what I do, if my husband would come to a show, I go, I'd like to dedicate this next joke to my husband. And I never thought to do that when he was still alive. And I thought he would have killed me if I had done that. He would have just said, don't even talk about me tonight if I'm there. So, yeah. But I never saw Wayne naked.
Not for lack of trying.
No, thank God. I didn't, but I've seen, I had my moment.
But quick correction, not a musician. I'm a drummer, not a musician. But
drummers are lethal.
We're assholes.
Drummer? No kidding.
But what? So how did you start in comedy? What made you just say I have to get?
I have to get into comedy. No, first of all, I come from a big Irish Italian family. I have seriously, at this point, 150 cousins, because the cousins have had kids and they've had kids, because I'm old. So, but everybody in my family is funny. I mean, my dad was really funny. My mom, we didn't know was funny, but she was. Everybody was funny. So we sort of grew up in that atmosphere. And the trick was always try to crack each other up. So I grew up in that kind of thing. My dad would teach us old vaudeville routines, which we would have to do at the dinner table, which drove my mother crazy. But that's, anyway, it is what it is. But then, so I was just, we were funny. But when Rodney and I first were together, we were living in Georgia, and we moved there. And then my sister and my best friend and Rod's everybody moved to Georgia to, I don't know why, they just thought it might be fun. And my friend Linda signed me up for a comedy writing class, a stand-up comedy writing class. So, and I want to say I was probably like 33 at the time, by the time she did it, in Atlanta. And it was like the learning annex. And so we'd go to class once a week. And after 6 weeks, we were going to perform at Jerry Farber's Jazz Club. We would all do 3 minutes. And okay, well, how hard could that be? So, everybody brought their friends. I brought Linda and Rodney because I didn't have any other friends down there. We just moved there. And it just was easy. It just was easy. I got up. I mean, everybody else was kind of not doing that well, even with their friends there. You know how that is. And I got up, and because I was really little and squirrely and goofy, and I acted a little bit ditzy, but it was just easy. It was just easy, and the teacher after I done my 3 minutes, and he was like, stretch, keep going. I ended up doing 13 minutes.
Wow.
I have it on tape somewhere, and it wasn't brilliant by any chance, but I was funny. I was like, we're just funny people. And then I just thought, well, that's the easiest thing that ever happened to me. Another girl in the class goes, hey, they do open mics at the Punchline. This is the Punchline in Atlanta in the early 80s when it was the boom. There were 2 Punchlines. There were probably 4 or 5 comedy clubs at that point in Atlanta. So I started doing open mics. And it's like, you could go to the Punchline one night and, you just work around town. And so I did open mics for probably 18 months. And they would let 8 of us sign up. And there were only 2 girls. There was myself and this other girl who was doing comedy. There weren't a lot of females doing comedy back then. We're talking, early 80s.
Well, don't forget, Jerry Lewis said women aren't funny, so he must be right.
No, I knew where he lived in Vegas. And if you don't think we wanted to go firebomb his house, it's like, oh, sure, you ask us to come and do your telethons. You ask us to do this and that and the other thing, and then you say we're not funny. Fuck you, Jerry. You should burn in hell for that.
I
never thought he was funny.
So polarizing. I mean,
well, but he was an old man by that time,
right? Well, but there are funny. So now you
yeah. So finally, like after doing 18 months, but they would make me go up first every single week. They would say, "Oh, we're going by height."
What?
We're going by weight. Or,
What?
Oh, ladies first. Yeah. I mean, every week I had to go up first to a absolutely stone cold audience. That was really good training.
What? Yes.
Nothing better.
100.
I don't mind somebody.
100%.
You betcha. Yeah, let me at them.
No,
I did a show
love that
months ago, and I thought it was 3 of us, and I thought I was in the feature spot, and I get there, and they go, oh, well, somebody's doing a guest spot because he's got some special coming up, and then we have a new guy who's just learning how to do comedy, so we're going to let him get up first. And I said, well, where's the new guy? He's over there drinking with his friends. I'm like, oh, this is going to go great. And they said, but we're going to have you host because when the first guy goes in the dumper, you're going to get the audience back.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is.
Bring your shovel because somebody's going to dig us into a hole. I was working, do you know Mitch Stinson? You ever work with Mitch?
He's so quick. Quick.
Now there's someone I'd like to see naked, honestly. And I tell them all.
You know what? I'm doubling down on that. I would not mind that either.
Can you work on that for me?
I'm going to make some calls.
Say, Joni still says she'd like to say, but we were working somewhere one night up in somewhere Maine, and it was just getting worse. There were 6 comics, and the hole kept getting deeper and deeper. And I was going on just ahead of Mitch, and he says, "Bring your shovel." And I went, "I think I need like a bulldozer. I'm not sure." It was like, oh my God. So that's really good training when you're starting out to be the first one up. You learn to read the audience or just get them. But I did that in Vegas, where you're opening for people and your job. And it's just like, please have no ego, because if you're opening for somebody in Vegas, they don't care about you. You're there to make sure people come in late because they're gambling. The high rollers who are sitting down front in the comp seats show up, the show's at 8, they're going to show up at 8:15 because they're busy. So your whole entire job is to get people in, facing forward, settled in, so then they can bring out the headliner and it's phenomenal, right? And people have said to me, well, doesn't that bother you? And I said, no, because you won't believe this, but I get a dressing room. We eat the same food backstage. They give me a big fat check and I'm home before the 11 o'clock news. I don't see the downside of that, because when we were living in Vegas, my son, he was born there. So, I'm a mom. I have to get home. I've got a kid, and then, so I wasn't hanging out. I mean, I worked in Vegas a lot before we had Joe, but that's one of the reasons we moved there, was that, I don't have to be on the road anymore. We can just work Vegas. So I worked Vegas all the time, not in the clubs or in, variety shows, or somebody would get sick and they'd call and they go, hey, can you come over for the show? It starts like in an hour. And I'm like, sure. I'm like a mile from the Strip. Let me put some makeup on. I'll be right there. So it was great. It was, it was nice. No more road work. So,
And how much work
going
did you
back.
do in Boston? How does how do
I've
you
done
cross
work a
paths?
lot in Boston. You know what? I came back and I thought, oh, this is gonna be great because I know all the Boston guys, and I love them because they're
Did you
crazy.
know them because they would come through Vegas?
They would come through Vegas. I first met
Ah,
Kenny. Okay,
okay.
Kenny was probably the first because when that was all happening, Rodney and I had already moved away. We moved in like 1977. So I wasn't interested in doing comedy at that time at all. I mean, it never even occurred to me, even though I grew up watching comics and loving I mean, my dad used to make me watch Johnathan Winters.
Oh,
That was like, Johnathan Winters is on, we're going to watch him. And I'm like, okay. Evidently, not every kid got to do that. But my dad he loved laughing and he was very funny. So he made sure that we learned all that. And then, of course, you're too young, the Ed Sullivan Show, where all the comic, and at that time in Framingham, there was a nightclub called, oh my God, was it Caesars? Did they call it Caesars? It was a big entertainment place, and all the Vegas people would come and perform there. It couldn't have been called Caesars. Caesar Tamagno's Monticello. There was the guy who owned it was named Caesar. Okay, senior moment. So it was the Monticello nightclub, and so all of those big names came through there, and then you'd see them on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I can just remember watching with my dad all of these great comics, from the 50s and 60s. And then later on, I got to hang out with them, which was just heaven. I think when I started getting interested in comedy, or not really wanting to do it, but for some reason, I was living in LA. There may have been a jazz drummer involved. Anyway, I was living in LA and I had a friend that I'd met in summer stock. He was a writer for The Odd Couple.
So you were already acting before your friend signed you up.
I thought I was an actress.
Okay.
Probably not. But I went to LA and my friend Marty was like, "Oh, you and he took me to a comedy club, and then afterwards, you know how it is, everybody was just hanging out." And I will tell you that it was my friend Marty Nadler, who was a writer for The Odd. He worked for Gary Marshall for years. Jimmy Walker, Steve Landisberg. Who else was there? Oh my God. It was all the guys who were like from the Comedy Store and the Improv. And I remember just sitting there with these guys and thinking, this is the greatest group of guys, because they were just really sweet and they were funny and they were helping each other write stuff. And I thought, this is a good group of people here, and I thought, but I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could do it at that point. But then when I started doing it in Atlanta, we had our own little core group like that too, where we'd do open mics, and then we would all go over to the IHOP, and somebody would say, "Oh, you know what? You should add this line to that joke," or whatever. And we had a lovely little core group of people that we helped each other. And we had that in Vegas. I don't want to, this sounds awful. When I moved here back to Boston, by that time I'd been doing comedy for a long time, and Boston's a tough group to break into. They're a tough group to break into. And I think it is changing, but I don't think that the boys, who I adore, are particularly friendly to female comics.
Yeah,
which is something we did not run into in Vegas.
a lot of a lot of the stuff from the podcast I've listened to, the comics who either were from here or came from here, like the Paula Palmstone and stuff like that. She had a very similar experience, like you're saying, which is why she left.
And they're brilliant, and they're and you know what? If I run into those guys, they could not be sweeter to me. They could not be sweet, but I don't see them saying, "Hey, Joni, want to work?"
Well,
I don't see it.
Getting to really know and work with Christine Hurley a lot when she got into it, and again, she got into it late.
Yeah,
she's like, it took her a long time to get into giggles.
Amazing female comics around Boston.
It's
Christine, Emily, Kathy Ferris. Who else? I mean, there's a bunch of
Jody Sloan.
Jody Sloan. I worked with Jody and Emily, and I did the all-girl comedy show.
Oh, fantastic!
Oh my God, talk about an estrogen fest.
Well, you know what? And this is the nice thing, because things are changing. I get to help with comedy classes on a regular basis with like Mike Katropis, and
I love Mike.
There was he's the best. There was a woman wanted to do it forever. Yeah. She and her husband, this was their thing. They would like go to a comedy show a month. She took Mike's class and did really well. Did well at the showcase, stuck with it, and Mike has started, and Wayne and I, with our friend Anthony, has taken over a couple of these monthly open mics that are meant for the older people who've taken Mike's classes, or people who don't want to go. You know,
down in Bolton.
Yes. Berlin.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm near there. So
yeah, and then this woman took Mike's class a second time. And this is all in like the last like year, and she stuck with it, and now what's really great, she going into after the showcase, we're like, oh, we're going to put you after the graduation class thing. We're like, oh, we're going to put you on a showcase. And she's like, oh, it will be my coming out party. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, nobody knows I do this. Yeah. My family, my friends. And I'm like, oh, no. I said, if the first time you do it, Mike and I will, and Wayne. And so Wayne got this club, and Wayne booked the show that, ran through Mike. And we're like, we're going to put you on this show. And it was Wayne. It was me hosting, Wayne, Emily, and Christine. And so Wayne went on first. So she's coming in 30 minutes, but she brought 30 people who had no idea. Yeah. Like all her bowling friends and stuff. Right? Yeah. But it's, it's just so, and there was another woman, but there was some other people from that class, but it's nice when an old, I say older, she's probably a year or two younger than me, but it's like, it's nice that the world, people like Mike are fostering.
Yeah. Mike is great.
It doesn't matter if you're
wonderful in
your 50s and a guy, woman, or like retired, and you've wanted, not only
also you get a different perspective on things.
Completely. And the fundraisers are in front of people who are 16 up. You fit into these. So we're being nice. We're doing the right thing. At the same time, we're doing the right thing. But at the same time, tonight, Mike's starting a new class. But when this drops in a couple weeks, and it's nice because 7 people signed up, 6 are women. So it's nice.
Where is it? Yes. If I don't go see Craig, I'll go to that instead.
It's down at first of 6 weeks at the Fox and Hound. But I love the fact that, because the last time, like 2 or 3 months ago, there was like 15 people at the monthly Mike at Berlin, 10, 11 women, 7 of them over 50.
When's that coming up again? Is that coming up next week or this week?
No, because of the summer, it's we'll do it in August or September. Yeah. But you came through. Let's get back to you. So you came through a harder road. You come back to Boston. It's kind of still the boys' club.
It is. But I was still getting somewhere. I'll tell you exactly how. I went down to TCAN in Natick, the Center for the Arts in Natick, which is a fabulous venue. Have you worked that?
Nope.
Oh my God. It's great. And I grew up in Natick. So how easy is this? All my cousins showed up. It was great. So, but anyway, I went to see a show, and Lenny Clark was the headliner. So I went down into the dressing room to say hi, and Mike Smith was promoting it. He was the producer. And so I went down, and Lenny said, hey. Well, first of all, Joni fucking Grassey, how are you? I said, you do know my middle name is not fucking, right? I said, seriously, could you just say Joni? That would be good. And so we're, chatting, and he said, are you working? And I said, well, not doing comedy. And he said, and he knew me in Vegas. And he said, well, why not? And I said, well, Rod died. And no, it's been about 12 years, by the way. I said, well, Rod died and things kind of stopped being funny. And he said, how long ago? And I went, like 12 years. And he goes, anything funny happened lately? And I said, yeah. And he turned to Mike and he said, hire her. And Mike said, honest to God, open his book. And he goes, when do you want to work? Oh. And I said, you don't know if I'm funny. And he goes, Lenny says you're funny.
Yeah, he's your biggest fan.
I said, Lenny Lenny doesn't know what he's talking about. I said, Lenny's nice. Lenny's nice to everybody. I said, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Anyway, that's why I started working because of Mike. And I went to the first gig was at the Tupelo Music Hall.
Oh, awesome.
Right? What a nice way to come out. And my son went with me, which was sweet because he kind of, got dragged around to clubs in Vegas all of his life. He almost was born at the MGM, actually, into labor. But so Joe was there and he was like snapping pictures and he took a couple of pictures backstage and he sent them off to the Oak Ridge Boys because they used to hang out with. They go, look what Mom's doing, and they were on the road and they were like, what are you doing? And I was like, I think I'm doing comedy. And I went out and it was Tupelo Music. It's great. It's a great venue. You can't go wrong, right? So I did fine. I did fine, and then Mike kept booking me, and then a few other people booked me. So I mean, there is nothing that compares. And I tell people this all the time. I go, when you're out there, and it's not always just the control thing, which it is. We all know we like to know that we're controlling a room. It's a very powerful feeling. But to say something and you connect with that audience and they laugh,
right,
and it washes over you. And you go, I've said this to people, I go, it is actually better than the best sex you've ever had. And they go, no. And I go, oh yeah. And I said, trust me, I've had really good sex. It's better when it works. I go, and when it doesn't work, it's still better than a lot of the sex I've had.
Well, I mean,
anything that feels better than that.
It's funny because like we were just talking, last weekend, 5 hours round trip to do a show. At my age, there's no way I'm driving 5 hours
after that. Pull over, take a nap. Really?
Yeah, right.
It's exhausting. But we always say we don't get paid for the time on stage. You get paid for the traveling.
But on the other hand, I'll be down in my office and my wife will call upstairs and say, hey, you want to come up? And I'm like, oh, that's 2 flights of steps.
I know.
And I got to go all the way up there. But on the other hand, I'll drive 5 minutes. I'll drive 5 hours to tell a room full of people, my wife won't have sex with me anymore. You know what I mean? So
I don't know what it is about it. It's just, I don't know. I guess maybe it's just that connection to think that you've touched people in a way that it's such a great release when you can laugh. I did a show years ago. I think it was the first time they ever booked 3 female comics together. And I was working at Trop World in Atlantic City. And then we were also booked at the Tropicana in Vegas, because I used to work there a lot, and I had a couple of girlfriends, female comics, and we went to the owner and we said, you should book the 3 of us together. And honestly, this is great. He said, well, I can't put even 2 female comics on a bill together. And we said, well, why not? And he said, well, you'll fight. I mean, I was quite a long time. It was before my son was born, so we're going back quite a long time. And I said, there's a bigger chance that we're going to go shopping and forget to come back in time for the show. That's a bigger chance. So he did it. And our first show was in Atlantic City at Trop World. We had such a good time, and we almost missed a show because, honest to God, we were at the mall shopping, and I went, oh my God, it's 6 o'clock. The show's at 7. And we just, got back just in the nick of time. But we had somebody come up to us. And I'll tell you who they were. Mary Ellen Hooper was one of the funniest people on the planet. She lives in Florida now, but she's still working. And a ventriloquist named Lynn Trevskar. And most vents are a little bit odd. Lynn was not. Lynn was like, she knew those were puppets. They were not real.
Okay.
And so loved working with my girls. And we all have like March birthdays, so we bonded early. But so we do the show, and a man came up to us and said, can I have my picture taken with you? Yeah, of course. And he said, my friends brought me to the show tonight. He said, I just want you to know, he said, my wife died last year, and I've been so overcome with grief. He said, this is the first time I've laughed since my wife died.
That's amazing.
And of course, so in the picture, the 3 of us are crying, and he's got a big grin on his face. And I'm like, fuck you, dude. But it was like, but that's the kind of thing where, people will just say, I was having such a bad day and you made me laugh.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, that's not the only reason we do it. Because, honestly, it's a pretty good ego boost
Right.
when you know that you can do that. And it is a control thing too. But I do love when people say, I was having a bad day, and that really helps.
But it's great. The best is when you say something that's so real from your life about your son, about what, and
Right?
somebody else is like, oh my God,
My God, yeah.
that just
And that's the thing too.
happened.
Or people will say, and I've had like people of all ethnicities come up to me. I'll tell stories about my mom, and they'll go, my mom does that. And I'm like, no kidding. All of our mom, I don't care if you're from Pluto, all moms do the same thing.
Yeah.
All moms do the same thing, and then now, of course, my son doesn't like when I talk about him, but sometimes, but usually he's not the butt of the joke. Usually it falls back on me. And like one of the stories I love to tell, can I tell the story? The college story.
Oh, I love this story.
I know. I love this story too. And he gets so embarrassed if he's like, once in a while he comes to a show and he'll say, oh, please don't talk about that. I go, but the joke's on me. I said, you're like the hero. So anyway, so the story is that my son was at Framingham State, and I'm working a couple of jobs to get him through college because that's the deal. And he's just taking forever because he hates school. He doesn't like school. So he's been there for like 4 years, and he's got 2 years worth of credits or something. So I said, okay, I'm going to go back to school because I've got a couple of years worth of credits. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to beat you to graduation. Challenge. Well, he couldn't care. He's not like that. He's not built like that. So I was going to Worcester State. He's going to Framingham State. He's taking like 1 or 2 classes every semester. I'm taking 5. And I'm doing English literature. So that means I'm reading 600 pages a night and then writing about it. He's studying computers. I don't even know what that entails. And finally, I'm like, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you. The last semester, I took 6 classes the last semester. He took 1. Graduation weekend comes. I graduated on Saturday from Worcester State. He graduated on Sunday from Framingham State. And I danced around all weekend, my darling boy, because I'm such a good mother, going, a loser. You lost to your old mother. Ha, 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 ha. You're a loser. You're a loser. You're a loser. Blah, 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 blah. And finally, my son, who is the sweetest person in the world, wouldn't say shit if his mouth was full of it. I swear to you, he is not like me at all. And he finally looked at me and he said, Mother, you're very competitive. It's not really attractive, and I'm pretty sure it's why you can't get a date. Oh, man. Oh. And then he immediately apologized, which cracked me. I said, no. Do not apologize. That's going into the act. And it's the funniest thing ever said. Yeah. So he gets terribly embarrassed by that because he thinks he shouldn't have said it. I said, he's finally at the point where he will say things to me and kind of like try to burn me a little bit. He's good. He's good because he is funny. He's really funny, but you wouldn't get him on stage. He's got that quiet, wry sense of humor that my father had. So, yeah, it's tricky. But he's very funny. And evidently he can sing.
Oh.
Which I haven't heard him sing since 3rd grade. But years ago was when I think he was still in high school. No, maybe after high school, he was in college. And his friends were over at the house and they said, we went to karaoke last night. And I said, oh, well, that's odd. And they said, yeah, Joe got up and sang. And I was like, my son who doesn't talk? Yeah, he did a Queen song. And I said,
that's hard. Queen's hard to sing.
Said, yeah, well, he can mimic people. He's a great mimic. And so, so evidently he was doing Freddie Mercury. And like, he was amazing. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, really? I go, do it now. And he goes, no. He just won't do it. He won't perform. He will not perform when I ask him to. So fine, that's okay. More stage time for mommy. But he's very funny and he's actually very talented, but he is his own guy and he likes computers and he has a great job. He works for MathWorks and he'll be able to take care of me in my fast approaching old age. So, so that's good.
Once you graduated, you went into, so how did you go from graduating Worcester State the day before your son to where you are now?
Where I am now, like still teaching, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, were you teaching before or was this?
No. I've worked, I like kids and I've always when Joe was in school, I would go in and tutor kids because kids are fun. You know that. You know that. There's nothing
Love
more
it.
fun. And so little kids crack me up. So I've worked with a lot of, and I'm a history nerd. So I worked with historical societies where we work with like, third graders, that kind of stuff. But when I went back to school, I was concentrating on English literature. They let me write my own program pretty much because I said, when I went back, I said, I was working in Concord at the Old Manse, which is a house museum. And I thought, well, I have forgotten, if I have read some of this stuff, I've forgotten it. So I went back and I said, I want to read, this is so nerdy. I want to read the things, all the classical stuff that the transcendentalists read. And I was pretty good with my Shakespeare, but I didn't know a whole lot about Milton or Chaucer. So I went back and I said, this is the stuff I want to learn. And so they let me write my own program. And most of those classes were taught by the chair of the department. So we got to be friends because I was such a nerd. And oddly enough, I never spoke in class. Never. I was like terrified to speak because this guy was so smart that I thought he's going to figure out that I'm an idiot and leave. But I would go to the office afterwards and say, well, that was really interesting about this, that. So we did a lot of talking. So when I was about to get my undergrad, he said, you should get your master's. And I said, oh, that sounds ridiculous. And he said, well, you could teach here. If you got your master's degree, you could teach at college. And I said, what committee is going to hire me? Because I'm a lunatic. And he goes, it's up to the department chair. And I said, oh, you're the department chair. And he goes, yes. I go, you like me, right? And he goes, well, you're okay. And I said, oh, okay. So it was that simple. He's like, get your master's and I'll make sure you get hired. And that's exactly what happened. I think it was retaliation. I think he thought, because every once in a while I'd make a smart ass remark. And I really do think that he thought, well, put her on the other side of the desk and let her see how funny it is on that side. But, and they don't really, it was the English department. It wasn't the education department. It was just the English department. So they're like, okay, you're going to teach a class. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? Oh, any way you want. It's English composition. Oh, you just design your own syllabus. I'm like, I'm not qualified to do that. And it's still like that. They're just like, well, what do you want to teach? I mean, you're teaching them how to write, and everybody has their own way of doing it. So it's been a blast. And I love the kids are, they're 17, 18 years old, and they're idiots. They're adorable, but and that's what makes me laugh. And it's not that they're not stupid at all, but it's that they're 17 years old and they don't know what they don't know. So the first day of class, I go in and my hair is up in a bun and I'm wearing a suit and high heels and I put the glasses on. So I do the teacher look, and I'm very strict, and it lasts for about 17 minutes. And then somebody says something so incredibly dopey that it just makes me laugh. And I'm like, okay, all bets are off. It's going to be fun. So, but they're good kids. I like you with living in Lowell. I like being at Worcester State for many reasons. I'm very comfortable there, first of all, but the community of Worcester, it's very diverse. So I'm in a classroom with kids who it's either first generation coming to college. English is not always their first language. Most of my students, I would say at least 95% of my students have either full or part-time jobs. They're helping their families. I have a kid who's late every day because he has to drive his siblings to school. So he's a few minutes late every day. But he's great. He's great. But I'm thinking, well, where are his parents? And I went and asked somebody and they said, oh, a lot of these kids have really tough home lives and they're juggling a lot. I mean, when I went to college the first time and I was 17, my biggest problem was, oh, I've got a pimple. I mean, and
Right.
we had things going on back then, but the kids today, there's a lot going on. There is a lot. And I'm sort of, don't tell them, I am a little bit in awe of them that they are juggling these crazy home lives and they're trying to pull themselves up and do better. And they work very, very hard at it. And I just love them. I just love them for it. I'm just like, I don't think I could have done that. I mean, if you think I'm goofy now, I was much worse at 17. But then they'll just say, I mean, they're so smart about some stuff, and then other things, like I have to explain to them, like about the middle of October, it happens every semester, the first semester, the fall semester. These boys come, they go, well, I have a meal card and it says, I've got this many meals, but I ran out. And I'm like, well, how many times a day are you going down to the dining hall? Well, 8, because they're boys.
Right.
They go down, they swipe their card. Well, there goes a meal, and they run out of meals, a third of the way into the semester. And I'm like, see, that's supposed to be like 3 meals a day, guys. So stock up. So it's like, so in between teaching them how to write, I give them a lot of I tease them. I go, it's a little life lesson for you. Here's a little life lesson coming at you. So sometimes we get way off topic, but at the end of it, I feel like, okay, I think I'm helping them. I had a student last fall, because I teach a first year seminar, which is kind of like teaching them how to transition to college. And then I teach Louisa May Alcott's Gothic stories. That's the fun part for me. Little girl, one of my students, young woman in the hallway crying. And I was like, what's up? And she said, I didn't get my homework done. And I said, well, don't cry over it. It's me, And she was in the nursing program at the school, which is very good. She said, I'm here all day. I have a full-time job, so I don't get home till after midnight. She said, I have to help. My mom's a single mom, and I have younger siblings, and I have to help my mom, and I'm so tired, and I'm trying to get everything done. And I'm like, okay, all right, but stop crying. I'm trying to calm her down. Then she said, and sometimes we don't have any food in the house.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. First of all, I go, don't worry about the homework. Let's worry about there's no food in the house, because you can't do anything if you're not fed. Yeah. So you've got this population where this is not even uncommon. This is not an uncommon thing. And I mean, how cold-hearted would you have to be to, yeah. So I said, well, okay, we have a food pantry here, and that's what we're going to do after class. We're going to the food pantry. We're going to get some food. And then, you can catch up on the homework. I said, the homework is the bottom of the pile here. Right. You've got to take care of yourself, and that's a lot on an 18-year-old's plate. Yeah. That's a lot. Full-time school, full-time work, taking care of siblings, and, and I'm like, and it makes me angry to hear that these kids who work that they're going through that. I mean, I never went through that. I was lucky me. But this is like so common.
Right.
Didn't they just come out with a study that said that 40% of the households in Massachusetts are food insufficient?
Well, living in Lowell, my son's a lifeguard, right? And last year, as soon as one of the fellow lifeguards hit 18, instantly dropped out of school and joined the military because it wasn't that the military, he was going to make enough money to help the family. It should be one less mouth to feed in the house. So he's like, I can go and do this. Yeah. There's not going to be money to send home because, when the SNAP benefits were, cut last year, and then people find out it's like, wait, at something like 60% of military families rely on SNAP because we don't support our troops. Yes. We support Raytheon. Yeah. We support Northrop Grumman, but the actual people who are there, if you have a family, you don't make enough in the military
to feed your own family.
To feed your own family.
It's
and
crazy.
So, one of the things I will...
But you know what? Sorry, you can't feed your family, but we're going to send you off to die so that certain people can make more money. It is. But it won't be you.
It will. And that's why, when we moved to Lowell, and I remember the first Friday, I'm picking up my boys, and I'm standing at the drop-off area, and every third kid getting on the bus, like 100 yards away, they're handed a bag. And I asked one of the moms, because I was always this, I was a stay-home dad, so I was always the only. And I said, "What are they giving the kids?" And they're like, "Oh, that's the leftover food for the weekend." Well, then the pandemic hit, and one day I go to the mailbox, and we had EBT cards, and the town of Lowell decided we spend $5.41 per kid per day. School's not coming back. And instead of keeping the money and rolling it over, they put it on a card for the kids. So nice. And I'm friends with the superintendent. I'm like, hey, can we donate this? And he goes, no, because your password is the last 4 digits of your kid's school number, so there won't be. But I'm like, wait a minute, Lowell said, but what Lowell also did, they left the kitchens open. So all through the pandemic, you would pull your car up and you would say, I got 3 kids. I got 2 kids. Hey, I'm picking up for 6 kids. It's me and my neighbors. And on Fridays, so when you would go there on Fridays, when you would go there on Thursdays, and I have 3 kids, well, they're giving you 6 meals for breakfast and lunch because Lowell, there's no forms. This is before the state did this. This is, before. There's no forms. There's no need. If you show up, you're getting breakfast.
That's it.
You're getting lunch. Yeah. But on Fridays, they would give you lunch and breakfast for Saturday and Sunday as well.
Because otherwise those kids aren't going to eat.
And with all the challenges our town has, the fact that they prioritize you're going to get fed. I will never not love my city. Yeah. Absolutely. For that.
Because if we don't take care of each other, I mean, I'm an old hippie, obviously. When I first came back and we moved to Framingham, I worked as the lunch lady. They gave me a school that was in a more
challenging neighborhood.
Thank you. And they needed a manager. And I had a culinary degree from Vegas. I'd worked for Emeril Lagasse at Emeril's Fish House at the MGM Grand on the Las Vegas Strip. And I went from there to being the lunch lady, south side of Framingham. So a little overqualified perhaps. But I had 365 kids every day who got lunch. 300 of them were free lunch. They got free lunch because that's fine. Over 100 kids for breakfast every morning. And then I went, like, my first meeting, and there were other lunch ladies from around town. And they went, "Oh, you're the one who took that school?" And I said, yeah. And I said, "How many kids do you get for breakfast?" They go, 6. Oh, because they were from a better section of town, right? "Oh, how many kids do you have for lunch?" And they go, 27. And I was pretty much working on my own most of the time. So I'm like preparing breakfast for 100 and lunch for 365 kids, but I'd worked for Emeril, so I knew how to do production. So that wasn't the hard part, but it was just like, why? And thank God they had that, because otherwise those kids would not have eaten.
No,
not have had any food. And people would say, "Oh, the immigrants, this, that, they're all getting," and I said, "You know what? Why don't you come in and work with me for a couple of days, and then I dare you to say that you shouldn't feed the children. How dare you say we don't feed our children? How dare you?"
I that's a nut that we could go on forever.
I know.
The fact that
I get up on like.
Well, no, the number of people who work full-time jobs
still are struggling.
It's like, I don't know the percentage. It's a high percentage of people who work full-time at Walmart who are on public assistance because they're not lazy.
No, they're working.
I mean, McDonald's a couple years ago, it came out. McDonald's had they put out a pamphlet to their employees of how to make more for your dollar. It's like, some stores have double coupon days. Find out what stores, blah, blah, blah. Get a second job. It's like, wait.
Get a second job.
That was in what McDonald's told their full-time employees. If you're not eating,
pay your people what they're worth.
A living wage, Yeah.
It's infuriating. And I sometimes go off in the classroom, which I'm not supposed to do, of course. But luckily, the dean is a little bit afraid of me.
Ha, good.
And the chair we have now, it could be my son. He's young enough to be my son, and he likes me, but again, a little bit afraid. But and I just said, look, I'm pretty unfiltered about things, but I am adamant about some things also. And like I said to the kids, because most of my kids, are, they don't look like me. And we had announcements and emails running when the ice raids were going on. And I would say 95% of my kids could get picked up by ICE at any time.
Yeah.
And so they said, this is what you do. They're not allowed in the classroom. They can be whatever. And so I was talking to the kids about it. And I said, so, they're not allowed in the classroom, blah, 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 blah. I said, and if they show up, I said, I'll be in the doorway and they're not going to get past me. And the kids started laughing. And then this one big hulking kid he goes, my money's on her.
Yeah.
And I said, you better bet your ass on that. I said, they are not getting past me. I said, I said, this is a hill I will die on.
Yes. My family knows.
Yeah, I know. But my son's so funny because my sister lives in Portugal now because she bolted during the pandemic and she has found her place. She's very happy. But I was talking to her one day, there was a protest coming up of some sort. And I told her, and I told my son, and they both said the same thing. They're like, be careful, mama, be careful, be careful. My son is very protective. Be careful, mama, don't, he goes, I know you, don't yell shit at people. Because we had an ice raid here the little town where I live, couple of months ago. By the way, they were here like at night in my driveway with the guns and everything, looking for a neighbor. I slept through it, but then they came back during the day. So I went out and there were like all these SUVs pulling up and guys jumping out with guns and all that. And like, I'm a little old lady. You know what they don't like? They don't like when you yell, get out of my town, you motherfuckers. Yeah. And a couple of them turned and looked at me and I went, bring it on. Bring it. And my landlord comes out, he goes, nice talk for an English professor. I know all the best words.
No.
But my sister was like, make sure you have your attorney's phone number in your phone and then have a slip of paper with it because in case they take your phone and I said, you do know that the protest I'm going to is in Bolton.
Right.
I said, I'm going to Bolton. I said, I don't think anything crazy is going to happen. When I went, somebody brought their sheep with them to the protest. It was the most lovely protest I've ever been to. And then we all went for coffee afterwards. It was great. We had the best time. But you have to stand up, right?
Well, every other Wednesday, almost every other Wednesday, I don't take because I substitute teach when I want. I go down. There is an
a prince among men, if you will. Subbing is very hard.
Well, just to let you know how much better I am than most people. I generally do it in the special ed elementary rooms. Yeah,
very good.
They're great. I love it. But every other Wednesday, I go. There's an ice facility behind the Burlington Mall.
Yes, there is.
And that's where I go on Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays? Really? Yeah. What time is that?
On Wednesday. It's an all-day thing. It's a non-denominational thing. I am a devout atheist, but my sister's, Protestant church in Wilmington, lesbian pastor. Like it's a multi, different rabbis and different
I'll
priests.
meet you there on Wednesday. I teach early in the morning.
It's right. I can't believe it's like.
Then we go for lunch.
It's right behind the mall. I'm like, it's in our backyard.
Right there.
It's in a nondescript office building.
Yeah. Of course it is.
Right. It's not a detention facility, but it is. You wouldn't in a million years think this is a couple hundred people unlawfully being detained. And I had a couple of comic friends like 6 months ago who said, you're getting too political because I posted we're at the point of history where you're hiding Anne Frank and you're addict or you're calling ICE. And you're on one side fence. Okay, before I get too far, so some of the other things that you love, you
do get political. Well,
I do.
Taught by George Carlin. Thank you very much.
Well, you know what? Here's this is the last thing I'll say on this. The dumb fucks, especially the older dumb fucks, who say how much they love George Carlin. It's like, no, you don't. No, he was the most fucking woke person you would have ever come across, you dumb fuck. You cannot say that he never punched down.
No.
Ever.
No.
ever.
I saw him in Vegas all the time. You know, he lived in Vegas.
Right.
And the way I met him, I think I've told you this. So there was a comedy convention or something at the Stardust one year.
Stardust, the Stardust.
Yeah, I know. It's so silly. So I'm driving over. I pull into valet because, I mean, who goes into a parking garage? So I pull into valet, and this car swings around me and pulls up in front. And I'm like, motherfucker. So I get out of the car, and the guy's getting out of his car, and I'm going to yell at him for sneaking ahead of me. And I'm like, hey. And he turns around. It's George Carlin. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's okay if George. And I was like, well, hey. And he said, and I didn't know him. And so we're both, you know, get our little tickets, and we're walking in. He said, I said, nice to meet you. I said, I'm a comic, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh, are you here for the convention? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you know where it is? And I said, yeah, I'm on my way. There's a big show. And he says, do you think they might let me do a set? And I went, oh, I don't know. Geez, I don't know. So I go in. I'm like, stand here by the door. I go and I say to the guy running, I go, so I ran into this comic out in valet, and he'd like to do a guest set. And he's like, oh, no. He says, no, we're all set. No guest sets for this, blah, blah. I go, I don't know. And I went, hey, George walks. I go, it's George Carlin. And he goes, yeah, Joni, you're out. George is in. Oh. But then the next morning, I'm having breakfast with my husband and my son. And my son's like little, he's like 6 at the time. And I'm saying to Rodney, he goes, well, how was the show? And I said, oh, it was great. I said, George Carlin was there. He did a set. And my son goes, George Carlin? I go, yeah. He goes, Mr. Conductor from Shining Time Station. Oh. And I go, yeah. He goes, he does comedy? And I'm like, oh my God, I've been so negligent in my education for you. Oh. I said, yeah, George Carlin does comedy. So we used to see him all the time. I mean, he would pop in, and he was.
That is hysterical.
Sweetest man. He was the sweetest man and so amazing. And again, generous, you know, and those are the good ones, the ones who are willing to share with you and don't look down on you because you're not at their level.
Have you seen the Judd Apatow documentary he did about Gary Shandling?
No.
Gary Shandling was going to college somewhere, and George Carlin was performing 4 hours away. He drove there to meet him.
Yep.
And said, I'm a comic, blah, 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 and brought like his notebook or brought like the stuff.
Right.
And he said, you know, I love feedback on this. And Carlin said, well, why don't you leave it with me and come back tomorrow and get it? And so Gary Shandling's like, fine. You know, he went back the next day. Every line had a note in it. Like he went through every beat by beat, and Gary Shandling never, like, he thought, oh yeah, you know, it's good. Maybe do this, and maybe
yeah. Those are the great ones. You know, those are the great ones who will do that. Who will, that's the way it should be.
And for me, I've had a different experience. And when you started and you were a woman trying to break into that, the people that I've right away, all the people we've already mentioned, the Steve Bjorks, you know, the Mike Trobises, the Tonys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, the first time I did a show with Steve, who I was already a huge fan of,
right?
He's like, hey, it was a guest spot, 5 minutes. So he's headlining. So he, an hour and a half later, remembered my routine.
Right?
He goes,
yeah,
can I? He goes, this one joke, he goes, I really love, I wish I wrote that joke. It was really great. And he goes, can I give you a couple pointers? And it was like,
okay. Yeah.
And he was like, it was like, you know, this one bit, it's good, but maybe take the middle part was strong, make that the end, take that here.
It's that simple where you don't see it because you're so close to it.
But he took me aside and like it didn't say, oh, hey, you know, maybe try this. Like he went into the beats.
Deep into it, yeah.
And I'm like, this is a guy I've been paying to see do it.
Right.
Somebody whose book I bought and read the year before he had, you know, and now, but that's been my experience. That's been my, you know, overall. Yeah. And
when
it's
when did you start? I mean, I started, I've been doing this like almost 40 years.
So about 3.5 for me.
Yeah, there you go.
You
So
know,
a
so great.
totally different atmosphere,
Yeah.
when I started. Much better now. It really is better now, but you still run into that, sometimes the guy, but I will say when I was starting out, they finally put me on the road, because back then, oh my God, when it was booming, like I started at the Atlanta Punchline. That's my home clubs to this day. It's my home club. And they had 13 Punchline comedy clubs in the Southeast. So you could, once they accepted you, you could work there twice a year, and it was a week at a time. You do 6 nights, right? So it'd be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then 2 shows, Friday, Saturday, 1 show Sunday. Monday was a travel day. And you would start like in North Carolina and work your way down got to New Orleans. And so 13 clubs twice a year, you could make 1 phone call and book 26 weeks.
Wow.
Those were the days, my friend. But you stayed in the condos, and there, as I said, there weren't a lot of females. And so, you show up on Monday, and at the very beginning, you'd walk in and the 2 other comics would be there, and they go, "Oh shit, it's a girl." And I was like little with purple curly hair and 86 pounds. And I would just go, and this is one of the things I love about being a comic, is that I get treated like one of the guys, which is fine. No, I don't think any comic has ever treated me as though I'm like a female, which is fine with me, because I have brothers, right? I've got 5.
Big family.
So I've got 3 brothers, 2 stepbrothers. So I'm used to being treated like one of the guys anyway. So it's really funny to me. But they go, "Oh God, it's a girl." And I go, "Look, here's the deal. You can hang with me or not hang with me." I go, I said, "I'm going to tell you, if we play poker, I'm going to take your money. If you want to shoot hoops, I will take your money." I go, "And if you want to tell dirty jokes, I will gross you out so bad." I got put off a tour bus one time because they were telling dirty jokes. I was on the road with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh.
They're all telling dirty jokes on the bus. I go, "Oh, I've got one." No, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was with Wayne. "I've got one." And I told this joke. I didn't even realize how disgusting it was, because I was sort of that innocent at the time. And they actually pulled the bus over and said,
"Get out.
Get out of the bus." And I went, "What?" They go, "Don't ever tell that joke again." I haven't. But the one time I was acknowledged as a female, I was working at Crackers Comedy Club in Indianapolis, which was a great club. It was a great club. And I was working with a guy named Fred Greenlee, who's I think he's retired from comedy now. He was sort of my mentor when I started out. I met him in Atlanta, one of the great, great comics out of Houston. So he was one of the Houston Outlaw group. Brilliant, smart as a whip. Ask Rogerson about Greenlee and he'll just, melt. So Freddie and I are working, I forget who the 3rd comic was, but you know how unmarried comics can be. The old joke was, what was it? It was like, how do you attract a comic? Carry a tray with a drink on it. So, there was always loads of waitresses who were ready to come back to the condo with the comics, because, for some reason, comics get lucky all the time if they want, because girls like funny guys. It's that simple. They can look like trolls and they will still get lucky. Yes. A female comic, on the other hand, not so much. Not so much, because we are perceived as too aggressive.
Right.
Somebody goes, "You're controlling a room. Guys don't like that. You're too powerful, blah, blah, blah." So that's okay. Because when I started, I was married anyway. So Freddie and I were working together. We're great friends. I was the opener. So I had to sleep on the couch in the living room. It was a 2-bedroom condo. I had to sleep on the couch. I was the opening act. And they would say, "Oh, you're a girl. Take the bedroom with a private bath." I'm like, no. That's not how it works. That's the headliner's bedroom. I'm not taking that. I'm the opening act. I'll pay my dues. I had no trouble with that. So one night, it might have been a Saturday night, things got raucous after the show. And Freddie comes stumbling out of the bedroom the next morning. And I'm sitting there with my coffee. I've been awake for hours. Freddie comes stumbling out and he goes, "There's been a woman in my room." And I said, "Yeah, there was." And he goes, "Please God, tell me it wasn't you." Well, what a lovely thing to say, Fred.
Oh.
How charming of you. How charming of you. And he goes, it wasn't right. But of course, he knew my husband. That was the other thing. Like if somebody actually tried flirting with me
Right.
when I was working with Freddie, he'd say, her husband can snap you like a twig.
That's great.
Which was true. But I said, it wasn't me, Freddie. And he said, who was it? And I said, it was a waitress from the club, but I'm not going to tell you which one. I'm just looking forward to the show tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I said, yeah, that's the way it goes. But Fred was he was so brilliant and so smart that it just blew my mind anytime I saw him perform. He was just one of the greatest comics I've ever seen. Ask Rogerson. Ask Rogerson about him.
I tell you, like, you know, there's so many things that, well, first of all, as soon as we wrap this podcast, I'm texting Mr. Smith and saying, hey, schedule us to do a bunch of shows together.
Yes, please.
Let's
yeah.
when I see,
you know what, and I'm like, I'm happy to. I love working. I really do love working. I've sort of cut back a little bit this year because I was sort of overscheduled last year between the teaching, but I've been working on a screenplay because I went to Italy last year and went to a writing retreat, which was wonderful. But it turned from this little tiny screenplay to a 6-part miniseries.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, and it's very geeky. It's a historical thing. I'll talk to your wife about it.
No, I'm excited to schedule a lunch to take my wife to the graveyard.
Yeah, let's do it.
But I'm going to see Mike tonight. I'm going to say, Mike, let's put me, because I'm going to be in LA for the thing that you a few weeks ago, I did a table read and Joni read a couple parts on it. It was so much fun.
I was so nervous, by the way.
No, you were so great.
That was my first table read.
It was so great, and
it was really fun.
And life threw my friend Jenna a curveball. Before we wrap, it's like on the table read, it turned out that one of the other actresses, who's rep by the same agent I have, she grew up the daughter of a guy who owned a bunch of nightclubs.
Yes,
and Joni was talking about. She was talking about what it was like having to be at the club. And then Joni was like the comic with the kid at the club. And my friend Jenna, who's a big author, she like I said, her mom just passed last week. So she's dealing with a bunch of stuff.
So
yeah.
Sorry.
It's
Will you send me her email? And
I'm 100% am going, but that book has to be written.
Yes.
Like it's the same story.
A child growing up in a comedy club, because my son got dragged around.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's the same story from your point of view of the comic dragging their kid there, and the point of view from the kid who had to go to her dad's club every night. So it's going to be fun.
And most of the time, they're not impressed.
They're not.
My son, not unlike my husband, I would say, hey, you were good in school all week. You want to go to a show tonight? This is in Vegas. You want to go to my show tonight? And he'd say, well, who are you working with? I mean, he didn't care if I was on. It was like, and my husband would do the same thing. I go, you want to go to the show? And he'd say, well, who are you working with? You know who he'd come out to see? This, honest to God, my husband, who was very funny and he was a doll. He was the best. Oh, when I said, I think I'm going to start doing comedy, he went, that sounds like fun.
Oh,
totally supported me. I mean, when you're like not making any money, he was the best. You guys would have gotten, and he was smart, and he was all that, and a bag of chips. But he would come out to see Fred Greenlee, Ken Rogerson,
the Viper.
The Viper. How did he get that? And Rocky Laporte, who's out of Chicago. I don't know if you've ever met Rocky.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, Rocky and my husband were like two sides of the same coin.
Oh, so great.
It was so much alike sometimes. And whenever I worked with Rock, I go, it's like working with my husband. He'd go, hey, Joni, how you doing? And I said, it's like working with my husband. But those are the only three people that Rodney would come out to see, because he said, well, because people go, is she funny around the house? He goes, she's not funny around the house. He was funny around the house. I was not funny, but I had shit to do. But he would, he'd say, well, he said, why don't you come to see her show? They thought he wasn't being supportive. Of course, after Joe was born, he was babysitting. They go, why don't you come to a show? And he'd say, well, she doesn't come to work with me. Right. He said, she's working. He said, she can't, pay. And so he would come once in a while, and they'd put him at the wives table.
Yep.
So he'd be sitting there with somebody's, the wives. And then people would come, the waitress would come over and go, "Hi, Mr. Grassey, how you doing? Can I get your drink?" And well, his name was not Grassey.
Oh, ha, ha.
His name is Spinazzola. And so I said to him one day, I said, "Does that bother you that they call you Mr. Grassey?" And he goes, "Did you get the check?" And I go, and he goes, "They can call me Grassey all day long." But he just had the best sense of humor about it. And he said, "No, the wives are lovely. And we exchange recipes and, talk about how hard it is to be married to a comic." He said, but he said, he did construction. He had a paving company in Vegas during the boom.
Wow.
So he got up early. So he's not going to come hang out at the club.
No.
Just wasn't going to happen. But always my biggest fan, always supported me, had each other's back for 27 years.
That's amazing.
Together. I couldn't have asked for, which might be why I don't date now. It's like, you find me somebody like Rodney, we'll talk.
Yeah. Well,
you're not going to. He was kind of one and as my brothers would tell you, he was a saint. Because when we were getting married, my brothers came to me and they said, we're happy you're getting married, but we don't know whether to thank him or to warn him. Which I thought was kind of cold, until we had to go to our pre-Cana conference with the local priest. And I remember Father O'Leary saying to Rodney, "I need to talk to you about this. Do you understand what you're getting into, marrying Joni?" And he'd go, and Rod was like, he was like very responsible. He'd go, "Well, yes, sir, but I've got a good job and I'm ready to take on the responsibility of a family and blah, 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 blah." And he goes, no. He goes, "No, I'm not worried about that." He goes, "Do you know she's crazy?" And Rod goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, okay." But that was like, the priest was concerned. He's like trying to talk Rod out of it. I'm like, could you guys just all fucking shut up so we can get me married? That would be good. But they were all like on Rod's side. So if we ever had a fight, everybody took his side, even my mother, especially my mother. My mother and Rodney were thick as thieves. I used to say, "You could have cut me out. You should have married Rodney, left me out of the whole damn thing." Because no matter what I did, like I say, "Oh, I had an argument with Rodney." "Well, what did you do? What did you do that you would argue with him because he's a saint?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll go apologize, whatever."
Oh.
So yeah, he was good. He was fun.
Joni Grassey, you are everybody's favorite, and I am.
I'm not, but thank you.
I'm going to talk to Mike. I'm going to talk to Mike Smith. I'm going to talk to Katrobus. I'm going to talk to everybody and say, put me and Wayne on shows.
And I've got a new car that gets way better gas mileage now.
Oh, so that's a whole nother
always
thing.
A big thing.
No, you seriously are the best. Thank you for carving out so much of your time on a Sunday.
Fun. But now I have to go back and finish my taxes. God.
But
no, we don't.
The most
government.
Yes.
Power to the people.
But
as we both get audited this year.
But the most important thing is, don't forget,